Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thanks for joining me. Back at it with yet another video, and we are going to be continuing my series of the secrets of the houses. Today, in true Leo fashion, we're going to shine a light on the fifth house. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the rest of the series throughout this year. Equally, if you guys haven't already caught some of the other houses, the first through the fourth, definitely check that out to get a little bit more insight of the houses in your natal chart. So happy Leo season. I hope it's off to a good start for you guys. I know we're just a couple days out from this big Leo new moon, so I figured now's probably a good time to kind of create the video for this series. And in this series, we obviously unveil and go a little bit deeper into what's happening with all of the 12 Zodiac houses. We're going to peel back the layers and maybe demystify a little bit some of the themes and get some deeper wisdom and cosmic insight to what the particular house means. So today we're stepping into the radiant heart-centered focus of the fifth house. Obviously, this is the realm of creativity. It's also connected to romance, pure joy, and self-expression. This is a house where your soul really takes center stage. And this is where you create, love, shine, and kind of act like a star. So if you guys want to know more about the fifth house, definitely follow through, watch this video, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how it shapes your life. And I'm excited to get into this one. This is one of my favorite houses in astrology. So in traditional astrology, the fifth house is known as the house of pleasure. It's traditionally associated with Leo, but not everybody's going to have Leo in the fifth house, but it will show some of those qualities. Qualities like self-expression, obviously ruled by the sun, and it's linked to the charismatic sign of Leo, the fixed fire sign. But what's cool about this house is that the fifth house in a chart is really going to say, hey, this is what makes me feel alive, whether it's painting a masterpiece or falling head over heels in love, maybe chasing a passion project. The fifth house is really where it's kind of like your cosmic playground, right? So that's just the surface of the fifth house. There's a whole other universe of meaning to this particular house waiting to be explored. So the deeper layers of this is the fifth house is not simply just about having fun or chasing thrills. I think that's just kind of the surface perspective of the fifth house. Really, it's about creating from the core of who you are. Okay, and I think that's really important. It really shows like the connection traditionally with the sun. And this is the house where you really find your divine spark. This is all about your unique piece that you kind of play in the universe as well as in your natal chart in only how you can express. Now, think of this also as a house of co-creation, right? We know the fifth house has kind of traditional associations with playmates, children, maybe even casual romantic partners. So it's not just with people, right? So like raising kids and having romantic partners, but also how you create with the world, right? And what you create and what you kind of share and your natural talent. So this is where you have a tendency to channel inspiration from something that's actually much bigger, and bringing something into the world. So that could be like art, that could be any act of self-expression, playtime, having fun. That's what the fifth house is all about. But the truth is that I think the real secret of the fifth house is actually about courage. I guess, when we think about the fifth house, it takes like guts to show the world who you really are and stand in your truth and kind of express yourself authentically. It's all about saying, this is me. So planets in your fifth house are definitely going to shape exactly how you do this. Signs on the fifth house are going to show the lens in which you express that energy. So for example, let's say you have like Mars in the fifth house, right? This is going to make you bold and fiery when it comes to creating and you're doing it with passion, but maybe there can be a tendency to kind of struggle with impatience when it comes to creating or expressing. I think Saturn in the fifth house, if you happen to have a natal Saturn there, can make you very meticulous when it comes to your creative kind of process. You could also be overly critical of your work or sometimes a little insecure in terms of how you express yourself, or maybe even hesitant to kind of share what you create. But if you have a fifth house Venus or Jupiter, this is going to be your playground. Obviously, there can be lots of overdoing it and kind of indulging and having pleasure when it comes to creativity and self-expression. Neptune there, maybe you create in like a very dreamy way, and it can be otherworldly art, or maybe you're kind of wrestling with how to stay grounded when it comes to, creative projects or romantic partners. Now, spiritually speaking, the fifth house actually connects you to your inner child. And this is why I say the fifth house is like your playground. that energy is pure, right? So it's this unfiltered part of you that really creates without fear or without judgment. It can also be tied to legacy. So the legacy that you leave, whether that's through your children, your creative projects, or the impact that you have on other people, this house is really going to ask, what is it that you're leaving behind? Where the second house is maybe what you're valuing, what you're kind of making, financially speaking. The fifth house is what you create that's not necessarily financially involved. This is the house that's kind of connected to this spark of divinity that's within you. And this is a part of you that really wants to play, wants to create, and remind you that life is like a canvas for your soul's expression. So I guess when we think about the house in action, the fifth house, and how it shows up in real life, I think that's a question that we kind of have to kind of paint a picture here. So let's say you've got a packed fifth house or a very strong Leo kind of influence here. You may be a person who's always creating. Maybe you're writing stories. It could also be, throwing unforgettable parties or dreaming up ways to kind of make life more vibrant or brighter. You're the one who can kind of light up the room, and you may not always realize that you do that. Now, psychologically, the fifth house can also be about self-discovery through joy. So this is where you learn that, just by playing and just kind of experimenting, you can find that there's something that you fall in love with, right? So for example, somebody who has Venus in the fifth house might find that their truest self in romantic connections or through aesthetic pursuits, but they may also kind of wrestle a little bit with like seeking validation through love or through beauty. Now, a fifth house moon could probably pour their emotions into creative outlets. This could be through things like music, family even, or poetry. And they could feel a very deep emotional bond with children because of that connection to the fifth house. I know someone with fifth house Pluto who creates intense kind of transformative art. Her paintings are kind of like portals in a way to like another dimension. But she's learned that her art is a form of self-expression that has really been an outlet for her to overcome her fears of like being too much to share them. The fifth house is also about risk-taking. So I always kind of say this is a house that can be about trading in the markets. This can be a house that's about gambling, games of luck, but also, risk-taking in a sense of expression. So it's like the thrill of a new crush or the vulnerability of performing on stage. Even gambling or starting a passion project can be kind of seen in the fifth house. And a lot of this is because you never know if you're going to succeed. You're just kind of taking a chance. So it's not always an easy house. Definitely, having challenging transits go through the fifth house, like Saturn moving through your fifth house, can make you feel a little bit creatively blocked and be afraid to take risks. And I think the trick here is really to kind of lean into what brings you joy, even if it's imperfect. So let's talk context. So the sign on the fifth house cusp obviously is going to add flavor. This is the lens in which the fifth house is actually going to be expressed. So let's say you have Virgo on your fifth house cusp, if you're a Taurus rising. This might express like creativity through detailed kind of like practical projects like crafting maybe or organizing. Whereas an Aries on the fifth house is for Sagittarius rising, it's going to be a little bit more bold. It's going to be a little bit more impulsive. Obviously diving headfirst, into new passions, right? Aries style. Obviously check your chart, see what you've got going on in terms of the sign on the fifth house cusp. That's going to be the clue for you as how you're going to really navigate, finding your creative spark. Now, the mystical side of the fifth house, I think, is the fact that this is on a soul level. The house is really about embodying your divine essence. In esoteric astrology, this is linked to the solar plex, which is obviously the seat of the personal power, right? This is about confidence, self-expression. And this house is really going to be asking you, what part of your soul are you here to share? And, what are you sharing with the world? So it's deeply karmic. The fifth house placements and a natal chart can also reflect past life promises. It can be kind of connected to expressing yourself boldly, obviously to create something that inspires other people, and also to heal through joy. And the fifth house is also tied to like this cosmic dance of creation and destruction, right? Because we think of the polarity as being like Aquarius. So every act of creation, whether it's a child, a novel, a love story, these are going to kind of carry a piece of your soul's purpose. And it's about aligning with the universe to kind of have this creative pulse and obviously leaving a legacy that's going to be kind of rippling outwards. So for example, someone with a fifth house sun, right, they might feel like this soul level calling to lead through their creativity, while a fifth house Chiron, on the other hand, can be healing old wounds by teaching others how to embrace their own creativity. how to dance, you know, regardless of people watching, and also how to really kind of tend to that inner child wound. Now, the house reminds us obviously that joy is sacred and it's not frivolous. You know, it's a direct kind of line and connection to your higher self. So when you create from a place of authenticity with the fifth house, you're not just making art or falling in love. Really what you're doing is you're participating in this grand story of kind of, you know, co-creating with the universe. So if you want to see more about your fifth house and the magic that's within it, grab your chart. I'm going to give you guys a couple tips just to kind of make the most of that fifth house placement. I think first things first is look if there's any planets in the fifth house. If you've got planets there, if you've got a north node or a south node there, if your chart ruler is there, it's definitely going to be a pretty significant fifth house placement. Really, this is about, I think, reconnecting with play. Okay, so even if you don't have any planets there, you don't have a strong Leo signature, when planets go through the fifth house, this is a time that you really want to kind of show up and like make playtime and creativity a little bit more of a priority. So for fifth housers, you really have to reconnect and play. There is a need sometimes to kind of set some time aside in your schedule and go, you know what, I'm going to spend 1 hour, you know, every day doing something that I love just for fun, right? And this could be dancing, this could be doodling, drawing, you know, even trying a new hobby, playing games even. And it's all about doing this without having judgment. It's about no goal, just joy. I have found like creating or playing without some kind of attachment to an outcome in the fifth house, doing it just to fall in love, doing it just to have fun is where you're actually going to get the most results. Now, obviously, like I said, explore your chart, look at the house and the sign, and take into consideration where the ruler of the fifth house is also placed in your natal chart. That's going to give you more kind of insight. For example, if you're like a Libra fifth house cusp, you're going to want to see where Venus is. If you have Gemini in the fifth house cusp, you're going to want to see where Mercury is. And that transiting planet in the sky will give you opportunities to create in certain areas of your life. And when planets actually go through that house, it's going to be a little bit more so highlighted. Also reflect on your inner child. I think that's really important, whether that's doing it through, you know, journaling or art therapy, maybe reflecting on what made you happy when you were younger, when you were a kid, what activities did you used to participate in that really lit you up, and also ways that you can focus on bringing that spark back and kind of keeping it consistent in your life. But for me, I think the fifth house has also taught me that you have to take risks, right? You have to take risks in life. That this is a time where if you're really focusing on channeling that fifth house energy, you want to share a piece of your creativity, right, with other people. And sometimes that means being vulnerable, being bold, kind of putting yourself out there. You could do that in a way like sharing a poem online or telling somebody how you feel. Obviously, the fifth house really kind of craves vulnerability. So I'd love to hear like what planets you guys have, like what your experiences have been having, you know, transits in the fifth house, or if you're a strong fifth houser, maybe over the next couple of weeks throughout Leo season, spend some time reflecting and asking yourself what makes your heart sing, how can you share it more with the world, and how you can tap into that inner kind of romantic, if you guys are feeling those vibes. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit on the magic of the fifth house. Obviously, this is a good season to be kind of tapping into that. Many of us have been reflecting on that during the Mercury retrograde, where how we can like kind of let more love in, or how we can kind of dance with our inner child a little bit more. And I'd love to hear what placements you guys have. So stay tuned. We're going to keep doing this. Obviously, next time as we're getting closer to Virgo season, we're going to be talking about the sixth house. But until then, make sure you're following the channel so you can go and see those other videos. Also, drop a comment below and tell me what's in your fifth house, what planets you have there, how you like to kind of express yourself. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We will be continuing the series. And for those of you guys who are interested, there's lots of videos on my channel. So we actually did videos where we go through all of the 12 signs, planets in houses, and we talk about like the archetypes of the signs as well. On the channel, I like to teach you guys astrology, not just talk about the transits. And I also teach astrology. So I have a beginner's 101 course that's over 18 hours of content, study at your own pace. If you want to learn all about kind of breaking down a natal chart and how to read it, and Astro 201, which is going to teach you a little bit more of the intermediate, you know, kind of processes of astrology, how to use transits, progressions, and other techniques to make predictions in the skies. So with that being said, if you guys want to see more about that and my work, check out the links below. Head over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com, and I will see you guys there. I'll be back on Thursday. We're going to be talking all things connected to this up and coming full moon. I almost said new moon, up and coming full moon in Aquarius. So with that being said, I'll see you guys soon. You guys take care.